Good morning. Good afternoon. My name is Edward Sanshin Oberholzer. I'm guiding teacher and resident priest here at the Joseph Priestley Zen Sangha in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and a part of the Empty Moon Zen teaching circle. My son writes music with time signatures so complex that the conductor preparing a piece for performance utilizes a click track in order to follow the progression of the music, a kind of acoustic grid laid down to navigate the pages of the score, just as the tree branch tipping against a window in the Wellington Museum guides the reader in early 20th century Dublin in James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake and leads them through the prosaic maze of Joyce's vision, one tip at a time. We've inherited a view of time that sees it as a part of the canvas on which our lives are painted, as separate and fixed. But this rigid grid, this beat of a conductor's baton, this ticking of a watch or a tree branch, is not how we experience time. And however precise it might be, it doesn't pin down this very moment in which we find ourselves. My mother once gave me a bag with a number of watches that had belonged to my father. The watch I wear today is one of them, an old aviator's watch that predates my own birth, and that despite its allegedly being a chronometer, keeps time now only approximately. I treasure its inability to acknowledge the passing of time with anything approaching precision. Perhaps it points to a more humane sense of time, a lived moment. Our Japanese Zen ancestors had ways of tracking time that have a lovely sense of the imprecise. Days divided into 12 hours that stretch and contract with the seasons. Drum beats and gongs that mark the hours into thirds and no more. Diane Benage, the Soto priest who, oddly enough, lives down the street from me here in Lewisburg, and who spent decades studying and practicing the Dharma in Japan, liked to recount that during periods of zazen, she used to sing to herself, 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer. Will someone ring that goddamn bell? There are 99 bottles of beer on the wall. You have to have met her to know how wonderfully incongruous that "won't someone ring that goddamn bell" was. The New York Times in 1929 related an explanation about Albert Einstein explaining the relativity of time. I'm sure I know it misses the points Albert raised in his special theory of relativity, though it sits well with Diane's sense of a sitting period stretching on into a kalpa. The quotation runs, "Numerous anecdotes are being circulated concerning Einstein. He once told a girl secretary, when she was bothered by inquisitive interviewers who wanted to know what relativity really meant, to answer, 'When you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, you think it's only a minute, but when you sit on a hot stove for a minute, you think it's 2 hours. That's relativity.'" Speaking of relativity, Nagarjuna assures us that time, like all things, is empty, defined by its relationship with all around it. Einstein's explanation involving the stove and a pretty girl, Diane's quiet recitation of that old drinking song, matched against the 40-minute standard Soto sitting period. Now, I used to collect records of old blues guitarists, Son House, Robert Johnson, Blind Willie McTell. When I think of being present, of that old response to an elementary school's teacher's morning roll call, my mind instantly falls back to Mississippi John Hurt and his rendition of "Here am I, O Lord, send me." Not the response of the prophet Isaiah, nor of all those who heard the call of their God. No, that jaunty ragtime blues guitar of John Hurt, waking me up, grounding me, just like that child in a springtime elementary school classroom so many years ago saying, "Present." Just like Ananda answering yes to the call of Mahakashyapa, right here, right now. So we hear the exchange between the second ancestor and Ananda in case 22 of the Gateless Gate, Mahakashyapa's flagpole. Ananda asked Mahakashyapa, the world-honored one transmitted the robe of gold brocade to you. What else did he transmit to you? Kashyapa said, Ananda. Ananda answered, yes. Kashyapa said, knock down the flagpole at the gate. Ananda answers in that instant with no separation between call and response. Ananda, yes, Isaiah, here am I, present. Kashyapa acknowledges his understanding with knock down that flagpole at the gate, the lecture finished. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Ananda, the Buddha's cousin, the man with the perfect memory. Too many memories, too many thoughts. How many times had that brain, has my brain, has your brain, stood in the way of just being here? You know the drill, walking down the stairs and suddenly thinking about where your next step should go. But perhaps I expect too much from Ananda. He was famous for attending each of the Buddha's talks, for retaining them in his memory, for reciting them later after the death of the Buddha. Thus have I heard, each sutta beginning with this acknowledgement that Ananda was there, present, listening, quietly present in stillness, awaiting each word. Here am I, O Lord, send me. But it's easy to say, just be here now, just be present. Aren't we all just here now? But just when is that? There's a kind of saddleback between the future and the past, this moment flowing out of the past, flowing on towards the future, but neither one nor the other, timeless, just this moment. In an interesting take, the poet Billy Collins puts his finger on something like it in the poem The Present, when he writes, the trouble with the present is that it's always in a state of vanishing. Take the second it takes to end this sentence with a period, already gone. What about the moment that exists between banging your thumb with a hammer and realizing you're in a whole lot of pain? What about the one that occurs when you hear the punchline, but before you get the joke? Is that where the wise men want us to live, in that intervening tick, the tiny slot that occurs after you have spent hours searching downtown for that new club, and just before you give up and head back home? That moment, the eternal now between past and future. Wittgenstein observed that if by eternity is understood not endless temporal duration, but timelessness, then he lives eternally who lives in the present. And Brad Warner reminds us that you're always in the moment. You can't be more in the moment no matter what you do, because you can't ever escape being exactly here and now, except, of course, that it's so easy to think you're somewhere else. As he writes, all you can do is fail to notice that you're already in the moment. That can be a problem. You can make a lot of mistakes by thinking you are somewhere other than right here, right now. You can make a lot of mistakes by thinking that this moment is preparation for some other moment in the future. What pulls you out of this moment is the idea that this moment ought to be good for something outside this moment. And here's the thing about this moment. It's nothing special. There are no heroics, nothing big, nothing grand. Chopping wood with that old man Layman Pang, carrying water with his family of worthies, the mundane, the everyday, the boring. Milton tells us that they also serve who only stand and wait. And what more mundane function is there than being the keeper of the gate? When Gerard Manley Hopkins wrote the poem entitled In Honor of Saint Alphonsus Rodriguez, lay brother of the Society of Jesus, he wrote everything that this moment is not and everything that it is. Lay brother of the Society of Jesus, honor is flashed off exploit, so we say, and those strokes once that gashed flesh or galled shield should tongue that time now, trumpet now that field, and on the fighter forge his glorious day, on Christ they do, and on the martyr may. But be the war within the brand we wield, unseen the heroic breast, not outward steeled, earth hears no hurdle then from fiercest fray. Yet God that hews mountain and continent, earth all out who with trickling increment veins violets and tall trees makes more and more, could crowd career with conquest while there went those years and years by of world without event, that in Majorca Alfonso watched the door. Just here, just now, watching the door through days and years, doorman as saint, sitting on a cushion through what certainly feels like Kalpas, counting the 99 bottles of beer on the wall. They also serve who only sit and breathe, and in that sitting, in quiet awareness, we may ask ourselves with homeless Kodo, just what is all this good for? In order for Zazen to be good for anything, it has to be good for nothing. Homeless Kodo reminds us, what is Zazen good for? Good for nothing, as long as this good for nothing practice does not penetrate our bones and we really practice what is good for nothing, it won't be good for anything. Practice, work, sitting. Yet, sitting, being here, breathe in that summer breeze. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Hear the song of the birds, too absorbed in their day-to-day existence to notice anything beyond the simple joy of being alive, of being here. Sit upright on that zafu. Sit here with Otis Redding. Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ship roll in. Then I watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Oh, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. And no, he's not wasting time. He's just here, being good for nothing.